Hey guys, a good place to bring a date for a first date, actually a great place, is a museum. Because in general, if you go on a weekday or something, they're like empty, so you got the whole place to yourself. You can steal the odd kiss here and there, or whatever. And, and there's stuff to look at, so you don't have to constantly, like if you take a girl to like a park or something, or your house, then you gotta keep the conversation flowing for them to think you're interesting. If you take them to a movie, you're not really making a good first impression because you're just sitting there watching a movie in a crowded room. You don't get to talk, you don't get to interact, you don't get to bond. But if you take them to a place like a museum, when you think of something interesting to say, you say it, and then when you don't want to talk, you just keep quiet, and then you can look at the things. So when you're being quiet, they think you can just, like, if you're too stupid to think of anything interesting to say, you can just pretend that you're looking at this, and then they think you're being like insightful or whatever. But meanwhile, you're just trying to think of new things to say to help you get laid. So yeah, museum is a great place for a first date. This is one of the coolest things in our museum. It's a life-size or almost life-size replica.
Yep.
Life. It's a life-size replica of the Nonsuch, which is a historical ship with Canadian relations, with the Canadian significance from 400 years ago, from the 1600s. And you get to walk around on it and look at what a ship from 400 years ago was like. And not only is it the ship, but they even recreated the village. And you can actually go into some of these shops and see the tools they used to use 400 years ago and whatnot. This is one of my favorite parts of the Manitoba Museum of Man and Nature. It's an entire town that's like the early 1900s. So it's like how people lived and what they shopped and what they bought, and everything's set up. Like you can go upstairs, you can look at people's houses and stuff, like these little rooms, and you can see the size of them and how people lived 100 years ago. It's just cool, man. There's a movie theater here, and the movies are playing. Silent movie theaters. Charlie Chaplin. And all the things are real. Like these are real antique cameras from 100 years ago and stuff. I was looking at this stuff here. This is like medicinal, and it's got stuff like mandrake and other stuff, which nowadays this stuff would only be sold as Chinese medicines. But even in Canada 100 years ago, this stuff was sold for medicinal purposes. Thorn apple leaves, red clover heads. Yeah, see. Asthma relief burner. It's awesome. This is kind of interesting. What was in baby cough syrup 100 years ago? And the answer is senna, bloodroot, white pine bark, tolu syrup, squill, S-Q-U-I-L-L, licorice, and ammonium chloride. Ammonium chloride sounds kind of weird to give to a baby, but I could be wrong. Maybe that's safe. I don't know. Someone else can let me know? Okay, I just learned something cool. I'm in the museum and I learned something. Who would have thought it? The reason the expression "mad as a Hatter" and the Mad Hatter from Alice in Wonderland, the way those came about is because in the 16th, 17th century, people who made hats they'd make hats out of beaver fur, and one of the things they used to soften the beaver fur was mercury, and mercury is extremely toxic and poisonous. So people who made hats would go insane from the mercury. So nitrate madness. That's the expression, mad as a hatter. How cool is that? Mad as a hatter comes from people who making hats using beaver fur. Mercury.